on this packaging, however we do it, and we don't have the cooperation of retailers, if we don't have some enforcement mechanism, my own personal view is that that really may be a step backward, and we may really only be encouraging people to make more violent games. Certainly the industry is moving into different territory with new technology. Nintendo, for example, is going to be coming out with a 64-bit system in the future, but the point of that is that graphics are going to become much better, and my sense is that unless we can get everybody in this business, not just the video game companies, but the retailers and the government, involved in putting a stop to the kind of things that you're seeing in Night Trap, we're really deceiving ourselves that we're going to keep this kind of violence out of the hands of children.
Senator Cohen, may I address this?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Weiner.
I'd like to state that back in September, we made a concerted effort from the VSDA to meet with all the video game manufacturers. Sega helped to implement it. We had 8 different manufacturers showed up. Nintendo declined. And at that meeting, the most important thing we did discuss was the video game rating system and how we were going to implement that system. We talked to them in quite some length about how the MPAA works. And that even if it is not 100% possible to control everything, by having a rating, it gives the parent the opportunity to make a decision if this is a good video game for my child or not. Without any rating, you have no idea really what the content is of that video game. You just know your child is coming home and saying, I want Mortal Kombat because everybody on the street has it. So we have been working with Sega since September. This is not something they just started in the past 2 weeks. They have worked with us continually for the past 2 weeks to put a coalition together, but this really was implemented back in September. We feel that the retailers, based on what we've been able to do with the MPAA system, will be very effective when we do get a good voluntary system in place.
Senator, just one comment. I'm sorry, but Ms. Weiner has failed to tell you that Nintendo does not distribute its video games to VSDA members. Sega does. So obviously, Nintendo is not the VSDA's favorite customer.
We also represent Toys R Us and Walmart, are members of the VSDA. We are not just the video rental business. We also represent the video game sales business.
All right. Mr. Johnson, what standards does the arcade industry have to prevent children's access to the kind of material that we don't want them to see?
Well, the arcades in the street, we believe, are going to have the greatest standards of anybody, and that's going to be economic.
Now, what kind of but do you have any way of keeping the kids from?
Have absolutely no way of keeping the children. If it comes out in a commercial coin-op game and it goes into the arcade environment, certainly the children are going to see it. There's just no question about that. Mm-hmm. The impact that's happening today in the commercial coin-op market is coming from the locations themselves. Keep in mind that our members, which own the equipment, typically place it in other establishments owned by those other than themselves. Movie theaters, restaurants, bowling alleys, arcade chains, things of that nature. And we have noticed, and hence that's why we came out with our policy when we did in October, is because in the last 60 to 90 days, we have started receiving phone calls from these locations. The movie theaters, I personally in my own business do one large amusement park who called me and said, we've got one particular game, we've had a couple parental complaints, we'd like it out. And so we are starting to see economic pressure not to have and operate these types of equipment.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the interest of moving on, let me just give you an overall impression. And I, as a person who's sitting here and listening and trying to observe, and probably also in the shoes and in the minds of all those people who are watching on TV and who'll be reading accounts of what happened in the newspaper, there's really a serious problem here. I mean, you know, this is not a dog and pony show. And sometimes I fear, and having sat through a few of these hearings, sat through a few with the movie industry, that there is always an attempt to get by the hearing. Just get by, offer them meetings, tell them we're going to be in a week and a 2 in a month, and we're going to, don't worry about it, we're going to take care of it, we're going to self-police. I've heard this before. And it's disturbing, naturally, because you want to see progress, and there are only so much we can do here because we have constitutional responsibilities and constitutional restrictions and rights of free speech and all these things that we want to observe in this country. At the same time, none of us want to see our kids go down to tubes.